In 1942, Casablanca was released, a film now regarded as one of the greatest achievements in world cinema. One of its most defining features was the romance and on-screen chemistry between Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. Their love story became iconic, and yet when audiences and critics talk about Casablanca, few stop to consider the fact that Bogart was 42 during filming, while Bergman was only 26. Here's another example. Hitchcock's famous thriller Rear Window. The leads were James Stewart, who was 46 at the time, and Grace Kelly, just 24. Once again, hardly anyone pays attention to the age gap. The two look beautiful together. Their chemistry feels natural, and the story is so gripping that the numbers don't seem to matter. But what if the roles were reversed? What if the lead was a 40-year-old woman and her love interest a 20-year-old man? Suddenly the narrative changes. Films like that almost always highlight the age difference, and it's rare to see stories where a woman is much older than her partner and it's treated as a completely normal thing. In fact, there are even specific tropes for these kinds of stories. Terms like MILF or Cougar often get attached to older women in relationships with younger men. But what do these tropes really mean? Hi everyone, my name is Alona Shilova and you're watching Femme Fatale's Heels channel, where we talk about women, film and women in film. And in this video, I will be looking at how films about older women and younger men have changed over the decades, from comedic takes to stories of liberation, and what the growing popularity of these narratives tells us about our culture today.
You're a student?
A late in life one, anyway, yeah.
How late?
I'm 28. I'm just kidding. I'm 29.
Fuck!
In 1967, The Graduate hit theaters, centering on the romance between Benjamin Braddock, a fresh college graduate in his early 20s, and Mrs. Robinson, an older married woman. Many film critics consider The Graduate to be the first movie that truly popularized the cougar trope in cinema. The word cougar literally refers to the animal, but in slang it carries the meaning of a predator. It is used to describe an older woman who confidently enters into romantic or sexual relationships with much younger men. These characters are often portrayed as physically attractive, independent, and sexually assertive, qualities that challenge traditional ideas of gender and age dynamics in relationships. In The Graduate, Mrs. Robinson embodies many of the traits now associated with this archetype: confidence, control, and sexual assertiveness. It's interesting that Dustin Hoffman, who played Benjamin, was actually 30 during filming, while Anne Bancroft, who played Miss Robinson, was only 35.
Oh, God!
Still, when it premiered, The Graduate was revolutionary. It portrayed an older woman not as a maternal or caring figure, but as seductive and complex. Its success and cultural impact opened the door for other films to explore similar relationships, laying the foundation for the predatory woman trope in popular media. But it's also important to note that despite breaking ground in how female sexuality was depicted, The Graduate and other films that leaned on the cougar trope often carried stigmatized portrayals of women. In an article, Sex Creates Harridans with Heartless Cougars, How Hollywood Portrays Older Women in Film, the stylist team writes, in the seduction scenes, first she puts on some sexy bossa nova, then she waves the universal signifier of a man-hungry female, the up-pointed cigarette. Then she eyes Dustin Hoffman, here a naive adolescent mostly wondering what the hell is going on, like a prey, fiddles with her earrings and lifts up her leg to show her stocking top. Poor stuttering Dustin is helpless in the powerful sex ray she is emitting. Later, he wants to have a real conversation in bed, and our hearts go out to this helpless boy being vamped by a temptress. He just wants to inject a few feelings into the whole toward-y affair, but the heartless cougar, hungry for his body, just wants to get straight to it.
Here we are, you got me into your house, you give me a drink, you put on music, now you start opening up your personal life to me and tell me your husband won't be home for hours.
So?
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
The same stylist article also highlights a few other early films that used the older woman trope. One of the most famous examples is 1950 classic Sunset Boulevard. Here, Gloria Svensson plays Norma Desmond, a former silent film star, no longer young, who desperately clings to her past fame while becoming fascinated with a younger man, Joe, played by William Holden. The film presents Norma as a woman whose obsession with youth and desire to reclaim her glory lead her to manipulate and control Joe. By the way, I've talked more about this film in our video about feminist body horror, so definitely check that one out. William Holden is a man trapped by his own greed, as of course he plays another helpless, frustrated writer, seduced into bad things by a glamour puss with a catwalk-ready look, because he needs the money. Poor baby. Another interesting example is the 1987 film Moonstruck. In it, Cher plays Loretta, a 37-year-old widow who begins a relationship with a much younger man, Ronnie, played by Nicolas Cage. And in this case, the actor's real age did line up with the story. Cher was 41 at the time of filming, while Cage was 23, but the dynamic between their characters is far from straightforward. As stylist points out, Cage plays Ronnie almost like a tragic, foolish man-child in need of motherly care. In one memorable scene, Loretta cooks him a steak and gives him a reality check. His reaction? He throws a fit and literally hurls a table across the room. And yes, Cher's frumpy cardigan-wearing widow has to get a makeover before she can emerge ready for her toy boy, free of grey hair and in a nice frock and plum lipstick. So what we can notice in all the films I have mentioned, The Graduate, Sunset Boulevard and Moonstruck, is that the male characters are portrayed as helpless and somewhat lost. They come across as overgrown children, unable to take control of their own lives, and their relationships with older women who partly step into a maternal role make everything feel easier for them. But let's shift from the cougar archetype to another term you've definitely heard before, MILF.
That chick's a MILF!
What the hell is that?
MILF. Mom, I'd like to fuck.
Yeah!
Unlike cougar, which has been floating around pop culture for decades, MILF exploded into mainstream vocabulary at the end of the 90s. The term itself has different claimed origins. Some pointed to a Playboy photoshoot in the early 90s, others trace it back to online message boards and early blogs. But what really made MILF a household word was the 1999 comedy American Pie. In the film, the trope is embodied by Stifler's mom, played by Jennifer Coolidge. She's portrayed as sexually confident, attractive, and seemingly liberated, an older woman who becomes the object of desire for several teenage boys. Still, American Pie uses Stifler's mom purely as a comedic, objectified figure, and the sexual encounter with her functions not as a genuine romance, but as a form of revenge by one of the main characters against other guy. In my opinion, the cougar and MILF tropes are almost the same thing, the only real difference being that in some cases the woman is portrayed as a mother and in others she's not. But for the sake of this video, I will mostly be using the term cougar, simply because it sounds a little less disrespectful. I want to emphasize that I'm using these terms not to offend or objectify women, but because they are widespread in pop culture and often confine women to narrow, limiting roles. And I want to unpack and analyze them critically, not to judge or belittle anyone. For a long time, older women in cinema who pursued relationships with younger men or became the object of desire for younger guys existed almost entirely as a punchline. And the humor in these films usually revolved around two things: their age and their sexual desire. But it's also fair to note that since the 90s, more positive representations of the cougar archetype have begun to appear in media. The most famous example is Samantha from Sex and the City. Samantha is the oldest of the four friends and the most sexually liberated. And this aspect of her personality also shows up in her relationships with younger men.
I am harsh. I'm also demanding, stubborn, self-sufficient, and always right. In bed, at the office. and everywhere else.
By the early 2000s, the cougar archetype have gained significant popularity. At the same time, stories began to appear where the age gap between partners was simply a normal part of a relationship, not the main focus or the plot or just a source of jokes. For example, I can mention films like Something's Gotta Give, where Diane, Keaton and Keanu Reeves share a romance.
Almost 20 years older than you. That's an enormous amount of years to be older than somebody, don't you think?
Don't think it matters at all.
And I Could Never Be Your Woman, starring Michelle Pfeiffer and Paul Rudd.
You have to get all the cute young girls you possibly can.
I don't want cute young girls. I want you.
From 2009 to 2015, the TV show Cougar Town aired. In its early seasons, the series leaned heavily on the cougar archetype, portraying older women, especially divorced or single mothers, seeking relationships with younger men. The show's concept played with the stereotypes of this archetype. Courtney Cox's character, Jules Cobb, a 40-year-old divorced mother starting to explore new relationships, embodied the typical cougar image in the first episodes. It might seem that in recent decades, the trope of an older woman in a relationship with a younger man has declined compared to its popularity in the 2000s. But in reality, just in January and February of 2025, two films featuring this storyline were released in cinemas. The first is Baby Girl, starring Nicole Kidman, and the fourth installment of Bridget Jones. So many media outlets call 2024 or 2025 the year of MILF cinema. Because before that, in 2024, the film The Idea of You with Anne Hathaway, along with several other movies in previous years, also explored this kind of relationship. And what's noticeable is all these recent examples is that the depiction of relationship between older women and younger men is being presented in somewhat new, more nuanced way. It's worth noting that the script for this video was actually written in early 2025 when I was making the Ukrainian version and didn't yet have an English channel. Despite that, I still consider the topic highly relevant today. Also, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and leave a comment. YouTube recently got a new policy, and so unfortunately some of my last videos didn't perform as well, and some of you wrote in the comments that you even haven't seen this video on your feed. So if you leave the comment and engage with the content while watching it, YouTube actually likes it very much. It thinks that the content is worth of sharing, suggesting to other people, so I will be very grateful for your support.
Did you watch these?
I did, but only because I was doing a load and I've been up since 5:30.
In the 2017 film Home Again, Reese Witherspoon plays Alice, a recently divorced 40-year-old mother of two who embarks on an unexpected romance with a 27-year-old Harry.
Yeah, my character's recently separated. She's a single mom. She's contemplating getting divorced, so she moves back home to her family home, and she starts a relationship with a 26-year-old guy. Guys do it all the time, why not girls?
Their relationship is depicted as light-hearted and fun, highlighting the mutual attraction between the two characters. Unlike typical portrayals of older women with younger men, Alice is not shown as a cougar or a desperate seductress. Instead, it's Harry who actively pursues Alice, flipping the traditional dynamic often seen in these stories. Their connection is based on emotional comfort and shared love of creativity, not just physical attraction. However, the film also addresses the challenges that come with an age gap relationship. Harry's immaturity and career uncertainty contrast with Alice's parental responsibilities, highlighting realistic difficulties such relationship can entail. Overall, Home Again presents a more normalized and respectful depiction of a romance between an older woman and a young man. The film avoids mocking or over-sexualizing Alice, instead portraying her romance as part of her journey towards self-discovery and independence. Another positive example is the 2022 film Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, which depicts the relationship between an older woman, Nancy, and a younger man, Leo, as deep and sincere. In the story, Nancy is recently widowed, retired teacher in her 60s. She hires Leo, a charming and attentive sex worker in his 20s, to experience sexual intimacy she never had in her marriage. The film handles their relationship with delicacy and respect, focusing on Nancy's journey towards sexual self-discovery and body acceptance, rather than reducing their connection to comedy or purely physical dynamics. Leo is portrayed as supportive and non-judgmental, helping Nancy overcome insecurities and confront the societal shame often surrounding the sexuality of older women.
Oh, Nigella, so sexy. Don't you agree?
Yes! No, I was waiting for you to say for her age. Most people say when a woman's over about 42 that she's sexy for her age. I was waiting for that.
Oh, right. No, Nigella is empirically sexy at any age.
But it's worth noting that Good Luck to You, Leo Grande received some criticism for its depiction of client-sex work relationships. But that's a topic for a separate video. If you'd like me to cover it, please write in the comments. That said, I believe the film's main message is positive, because it's incredibly rare to see a story on screen about a 60-year-old woman exploring her sexuality portrayed as something natural and normal. In recent years, one of the most talked about films depicting a relationship between an older woman and a younger man is The Idea of You, starring Anne Hathaway. The story delves into the complexities of the romance between Soline March, a 40-year-old divorced art gallery owner, and Hayes Campbell, a 24-year-old lead singer of the popular boy band. The film portrays their romance as genuine and heartfelt, reflecting a trend in contemporary cinema where relationships between older women and younger men are shown as romantic rather than predatory. However, despite the sincerity of their connection, Soline and Hayes face societal judgmental and media interference. This highlights the double standards often encountered by couples in which the woman is older than the man. For me, though, The Idea of You feels more like a romantic fairy tale. Let's be honest, Anne Hathaway doesn't really look like your average life-weary 40-year-old. In the film, she is a successful gallery owner, stylish and beautiful, and her ex-husband looks almost ridiculous next to her. So when she begins a relationship with a younger man, they appear together simply as beautiful, successful couple. That said, the film does handle the social commentary on media reactions and the portrayal of women as predators fairly well. At the time of its release, Baby Girl became a real hit. Nicole Kidman was nominated for several awards, and her milk scene instantly became a part of pop culture. Since the film's premiere, countless reviews and analysis videos have appeared on YouTube, so I don't think I need to dedicate a large separate segment to it. Still, I can say that for me, Baby Girl was rather a disappointing film. I should note up front that I understand that the film might not have resonated with me because of my age. After all, I'm not close in age to Kidman's character, and I realize it might be difficult to me fully appreciate her perspective and experience. But even so, I expected more from the film. Similar to 50 Shades of Grey, the promotion promised audiences shocking relationships with domination and eroticism. In reality, though, I feel that this dynamic is not very fully explored in the movie. Many scenes depicting BDSM, including aspects of consent and negotiation, were, in my opinion, poorly executed.
I thought what we were doing was like, you know, in my mind, I see it as this thing where we're like, you know, we're two children playing, and that's natural.
You're not a fucking child.
Oh, whatever.
I also felt like the pacing was a little bit odd, like the film was actually trying to say something but not executing it fully.
Ever since I was very little, like since I can remember, I've had these specific thoughts in my head. Dark thoughts, dark ideas, disgusting. And I would do anything to be able to get rid of them. I'm saying I've tried everything. I've tried all this therapy. I thought it was connected to my childhood, my fucking childhood and all that. But it's not.
What do you mean?
I was born like this.
And I also was bothered by the aspects of corporate ethics. Through the film, I kept thinking that if the gender roles had been reversed, it would have been extremely uncomfortable to watch. That said, I also think the film has some good scenes, from the animalistic orgasm scene to a beautiful moment set to music. And by no means I think there is something wrong with people who made this film or people who enjoyed it. That's just my opinion. So far, we've been discussing the aspect of relationships between older women and younger men from the perspective of how women were initially stigmatized in the cougar trope and how it later evolved into a more emancipatory phenomenon. But it's also important to address another aspect of large age gap relationships. In everyday real life, adults can build partnership however they choose, as long as both partners are of legal age. However, I also think there's a significant difference between relationships where both people are, say, over 30 and relationships where one partner is just 18, 20 and the other is already well over 40. And this works both ways, whether the man is older or the woman is older. I also recommend checking out a video on the Modern Girls channel about predatory relationships in show business and Hollywood. It has plenty of examples of real-life age gap relationships in the film industry, and the creator explains very clearly why such dynamics can be problematic. But in this video we are still focusing on relationships where the woman is the older. And when it comes to examples in cinema where this dynamic is portrayed in a troubling way, I can actually think of only one film, May December. The 2023 film, directed by Todd Haynes, delves into the uncomfortable dynamics of a predatory relationship between an older woman and a much younger man, exploring the long-term psychological and social consequences. The film was inspired by real-life cases, including the scandal involving Mary Kay Letourneau, an American teacher who abused her 12-year-old student. The movie deeply examines the power imbalance and moral complexities inherent in such relationships.
I thought you actually liked me and that we had a connection.
I like you.
Then what was this about?
This is just what grown-ups do.
At the center of the story is Gracie, played by Julianne Moore, who at around 30 years old begins a relationship with a 13-year-old Joe, played by Charles Melton. Decades later, when their seemingly stable family life becomes the focus of the film, the arrival of actress Elizabeth, played by Natalie Portman, brings their past back into the spotlight, forcing a reevaluation of the predatory origins of their relationship. The film reflects on the harmful nature of Gracie's actions, showing how her care for Joe affected his emotional development and left him permanently attached to her influence. Joe's coming of age is marked by a lack of autonomy, as he struggles to assert his own identity within a relationship defined by a troubling beginning.
What if I wasn't ready to be making those kinds of decisions? And then what? Because the kids. What would that mean?
I don't understand what you're saying.
I'm saying, what if I was too young?
You seduced me.
But I was 13 years old.
Don't give me that.
But I was.
I don't care how old you were. Who was in charge?
What?
Who was the boss? Who was in charge? Who was in charge?
Haynes subtly shows how Gracie's early manipulations continue to affect their dynamic, even as they present a facade of normalcy to the outside world. And I truly think that this is a rare, a very uncomfortable but real depiction of what harm such relationship might have on younger people. So, in conclusion, I can say that over the decades, cinema has treated age gap romances very differently, depending on gender. Older men with younger women are rarely questioned, While older women with younger men are often stigmatized and labeled as predators or cougars, today portrayals of older women in relationships with younger men are becoming more nuanced. They're shown as independent, desirable, and emotionally complex, rather than merely comic or scandalous figures. And I'm pretty sure this topic will be developed in cinema in the future. For example, right now Lena Dunham is working on her next romantic comedy, Good Sex, where Natalie Portman plays a therapist who finds herself in an age gap love triangle with two men, one in his early 50s and one in his 20s. So I'm pretty sure this theme of age gap in relationships will definitely come out as well, because such stories are becoming more diverse and humanized, making them worth watching, discussing, and reflecting on it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a like, leave a comment. It's recently been very tough on YouTube here because YouTube has new policy which has great impact on how videos are performing. So please share your thoughts, help this video to be seen. It truly will mean a lot to me. So thank you for watching and see you in the next videos. Bye bye.